event dedicating the Holley Memorial Bench. We're very honored to have Christine and John Holley here today to help us celebrate this. And I'm not going to talk very long. I'm going to introduce Christine and John, and they will talk, and then Sarah and Dennis will tell you the story of Myron and Sally Holley, and then we'll head back to the gatehouse for some food, cake, and drinks.
Today we're here to celebrate and commemorate. We're commemorating and marking the gravesite of Myron Holley and his daughter Sally Holley with this Holley Memorial Bench. As DAR and SAR members, it is our honor and pleasure to recognize the connection between the Holleys of the past and the Holleys of the present. In DAR, we have a variety of scripts for a number of occasions, and this is just a small part of one of those scripts that is used for marking a historic site. But I thought that this fit the occasion really well because of the service that Myron and Sally did for their communities. It goes like this. To all who pause in this place, may this marker or bench make effective the voice of this memorial. May it remind them of the nobility of life well lived and quicken the response of their acknowledgement of ever-continuing call to unselfish service. And Myron and Sally certainly served their communities well. Now, almost 2 years ago, I decided that I would like a memory bench to memorialize my time on this earth and my contributions that I have made as a member of the Daughter of the American Revolution. As a member of the Charles Jabril chapter in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and associate member of the Irondequoit and Canisteo Valley chapters in New York, I'm honored to place my DAR insignia by this bench. You'll notice it way at the end there. My main reason for joining DAR was to capture my family history that had been lost over the ages. As my search went on, my husband, John Holley, began to capture some of his long-lost family history. The end result is here today, in this beautiful spot, with this lovely bench to sit on and contemplate family history, perhaps in your own lineage.
What I would like to have you take away today is, for Myron, and I know you see all the stuff on the internet and you can Google it and all that kind of stuff and get all the information, but Myron was a family man. He loved his kids, he loved his grandkids, and he spent many hours after the building of the canal when he was back in Rochester, just with his family. He also loved to go back to Salisbury to visit his family back there, who there were some that were still there. And his feeling about what he did with his life was, it was always above honor. He always cherished a good view of the Holley family, and he tried his best to help his children and his grandkids grow up right. He didn't drink and he didn't smoke, but he grew a lot of beautiful flowers and vegetables that she peddled around Rochester. Sally, on the other hand, was more taken aback by what her father did. And she kind of decided very early in her life, after college, that she was going to follow some sort of anti-slavery program that would help those folks that were really needing and in distress. As it turned out, she was on the circuit, and the only really document of Sally and her career was the letters she wrote herself. And in 1899, a gentleman by the name of John Chadwick captured those letters, and it is in book form, so if, you can Google it and read it if you want to. But it's very interesting because as you go through the book, and it's a timeline, 1810, 1812, go on. he mentions in the book that there was a gap. In the summer of 1855, all of a sudden the letters that she had almost daily written kind of really dropped off. So I started thinking, well, what's going on? So further research, I found that in the summer of 1812, Sally Holley presented 16 different speeches around the Northeast for the slavery effort. So she was so active during that period of time that she just didn't bother to write the letters. And the letters started again come fall of 1855. She was untiring in her effort to do what she felt was right. For 40 years, she fought the battle of anti-slavery, and more importantly, for 23 years, she ran the school in Virginia, the Holley School, for black folks that needed education.
DeWitt Clinton took this on as a project, and backed up by Myron Holley. They built the canal. Myron Holley was assigned to be a commissioner of the canal, and his job was the primary job. He was in charge of seeing that the main route of the canal was built, and he ran the finances and supervised the contractors and the various sections on the canal. All of this on horseback and in various inns and things like that. The total bill in the canal I will say $1,825 was about $7,770,000. And Myron Holley did the accounting for this, basically on horseback, camping out in construction sites and in various inns along the canal path. Similar projects today might have a staff of 30 people doing the accounting. And when he turned in his books at the end, he was $30,000 short. He could not account for $30,000. And his political enemies jumped on this. And I don't think anybody, including his political enemies, had any idea that he had absconded with this money. But they used it as a political point. And they seized his farm in Lyons to pay for that default. And as politicians do, they called him the defaulter, the great defaulter, and which didn't help his political career going forward, as you can imagine. But Myron Holley is responsible for the canal, really. If any one person is responsible for the Erie Canal, it would be Myron Holley.
Now, Frederick Douglass gave one of the eulogies at Sally's funeral, and in the eulogy, he described his first interaction with Sally. He was attending and leading an abolitionist meeting in Buffalo, New York, and this is what he said. He wrote, "On the third day of our motley meeting, made up entirely of men, I observed with some amazement as well as pleasure a stately young lady, elegantly dressed, come into the room. The crowd was one that would naturally repel a refined and elegant lady, but there was no shrinking on her part. The crowd did the shrinking. It drew in its sides and opened the way, as if fearful of soiling the elegant dress with the dirt of toil. The lady came daily to my meetings in that old, deserted building, morning and afternoon, until they ended. The dark and rough background rendered her appearance like a messenger from heaven sent to cheer me in what seemed to most men a cause of utter despair. The lady was Miss Sally Holley, and this story illustrates her noble, independent, and humane character. She was never ashamed of her cause nor her company."